Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on another day of People Week. I hope that you've all enjoyed all of the fantastic things and events that the HR team has been putting together for the last few weeks in order to make this week successful. First, I wanted to thank Carol for inviting me to speak today. It's an honor to be able to spend the next hour or so with you to discuss a very important topic, and that is also very close to my heart. I was pleasantly surprised when she asked me to do a TEDx talk on D&I in the workplace for People Week. And I said, of course, absolutely, count me in, because I usually just jump in things without thinking too much. Well, after we hung up, I thought, wait, what did I get myself into? What and how am I going to deliver this and make this entertaining and valuable for all of you today? I started to think, and I thought, wait, I have quite a bit of information that I've been able to gather over the last 3 years of interviewing hundreds of leaders in this space. And I've had many conversations with different professionals about how important DE&I is to our companies and to our well-beings, and as well as to their careers when they've shared it with me. And so I hope that you find this talk valuable today, and let's get into it. Before I start the real portion of this talk, I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page of what DE&I means, the true meaning behind it. Because trust me, I know it's another acronym that is used all of the time, especially now after the pandemic. I feel like I hear this, acronym everywhere. And myself included, I didn't really know what it meant and what it stood for. So let me give you a brief description of each one in order to understand a little bit better about what this talk is going to be about. Also, to understand DE&I in the workplace, one must first understand the meaning and significances of all three variables: diversity, equity, and inclusion, because each component is necessary to drive real change at an individual level as well as an organizational level. So let's start with the first word, D for diversity. Diversity refers to the presence of a wide range of differences amongst people, including demographic differences such as race, gender, age, as well as differences in perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds. Equity refers to the fair and just treatment of all individuals, where everyone has an equal access to opportunity, to resources, and benefits. It is an action-based practice that requires organizations to identify and eliminate barriers that have historically prevented the full participation of certain groups. And inclusion is more than a feeling or a natural product of diversity. It is the product of an intentional action to make employees feel seen, feel heard, and accepted at work for who they are. Inclusion is related to fostering a safe work environment where employees can speak up without fear of retaliation, without fear of being judged. And inclusion is also part of the flexibility and different work models that honor different schedules and responsibilities depending on what different people are going through, because it's not a one-size-fits-all type of model. It's important to note that DE&I is not a one-time initiative. This is not a one-time thing, but it's a continuous effort to create a workplace that is inclusive, respectful, and welcoming to everyone. And this is going to take all of us in order to be successful, and many years and years and months of us putting this work together in order to really make a change. This is not a one-time thing. Now, why does this matter? Why is DE&I important in the workplace, right? Why are we talking about this? Well, DE&I is important in the workplace for many reasons, and I can sit here for 30 minutes and tell you all of the reasons of why it's so important, but I've selected 3 that I'm going to talk about. One is the improved business outcome. Companies with diverse and inclusive workforces tend to have better financial performances and a more positive reputation, as well as increased innovation and creativity. At the end of the day, we're a business, and if this is helping our business outcome, we should look at this. Second is the enhanced employee engagement and retention. When employees feel valued and respected, regardless of their personal characteristics, they're more likely to be engaged and motivated to work. Now, don't we all want to work somewhere where we feel engaged and that we don't have to worry about losing our talent due to retention needs because they don't feel like they have a safe environment where they can thrive. And last, better and more dynamic decision making. A more diverse and inclusive workplace can lead to better decision making and problem solving, as well as reduced group thinking. This is critical in order for us to innovate. At the end of the day, we're a technology company. In order for us to innovate and come up with great ideas, we need to be able to feel comfortable in our teams and feel like we're included and that we can bring up ideas. And so for those three reasons, it's really important that we take DE&I, as a focus for our company. And like I said, I can keep going on and on about all the amazing benefits that there are. Today's talk, I wanted to focus it on why inclusion starts with I. At the end of the day, inclusion will start with you because each one of us has the power to truly make a difference, and it all starts with us. This is an individual task that each one of us needs to take ownership of because each one of us can affect this change. We can't wait for leadership and HR to fix all of our problems. This vision has been set from above already. Look at our new rebranding. Be inclusive is one of the key statements under our people pillar in our new branding. Let me read you the behaviors that we have listed under the people pillar. It says, we are safe, we are inclusive, we respect work and personal life. It's there. That's how important it is. We want to be able to read it every day and know that the company wants this for us. And remember, it will take all of us to make this change in our organization. So when I was thinking about how to have this talk, the easiest way for me to talk about inclusion is by humanizing it and making it personal. So let's start with that. Why does inclusion matter to you? Stop for a moment and really think about it. Think about a moment when you didn't feel included in a group setting or at work. Think about a moment when maybe growing up you didn't get invited to someone's birthday or they picked you last in the sports team. It doesn't feel good. You feel excluded. Think about a moment when you felt excluded at work. A time maybe when you found out that your entire team went out after working hours and they forgot to ask you to join them. How does that feel when they're talking about it the next day? Why does inclusion matter to you? Now think about a moment when you made someone else feel excluded because you judged their appearance or differences without really giving them a chance. Sometimes we do this without even knowing that we're doing it. Think about a moment maybe when you changed your appearance, how you spoke, how you dressed, what you said, in order to feel liked and fit into your team. How did that feel? It's exhausting, isn't it? Trying to be someone that you're not is heavy. It's heavy work, and it doesn't feel good. Listen, from all the questions that I've just asked, I'm sure you've related to a couple of them. And this is normal. We are all human. We have all faced this type of aversion. But the question is, how do we change our minds and our hearts to be more inclusive moving forward? First, let me tell you, why does inclusion matter to me? I was born in a small island outside of Colombia called San Andres. When I was 4 years old, my mom decided to move us to Canada for a better future for the both of us, which a lot of people did back then and still do now. This was a big move for us. Another country, another climate, it's cold. Another language, English and French. And we went from knowing to not knowing anything, from knowing a lot of people to not knowing anybody. We went from leaving our comfort zone to embrace uncertainty out of necessity. Through my mom, I saw the challenges firsthand of what an immigrant has to go through when starting over in a new country. Everything from restarting her education, to finding groups of people that she could relate with and connect with, to having multiple side jobs to barely make ends meet and struggling in a new country. She also struggled week in and week out every time she would start a new job because she felt like she didn't belong and they weren't welcoming towards her because she had a weird accent. She didn't speak the language. They felt like she didn't deserve to be there because she was maybe taking somebody else's job. It was an accumulation of subtle underlining tones and judgments directed to her to tear her down because she was an outsider and because she was different. Because she didn't sound like everyone else, because maybe she didn't look like everyone else, they would give her a hard time. Diversity and inclusion isn't always obvious. We've all heard of the example of the board with 10 white male and 1 woman of color. This is a very obvious example where we can improve, right? But the truth is that everyone that's listening to this today, or that's in this room, knows someone that is new to their team, someone who just arrived from another country, whether it's someone that you work with or that immigrated and they live in your neighborhood, someone who is far away from family and friends and maybe struggling to adapt and feel like they belong in your community or at work. Think about it. When is the last time that you reached out to them? When is the last time that you asked them how they're doing and if you can offer to support in any way? When is the last time that maybe you noticed a subtle bias towards someone on your team or in your circle, but you kept quiet and ignored it because it was small? I believe that this is where diversity and inclusion starts. We can all make a small effort that has a huge impact on our culture and our employee well-being. Because of what I saw my mother go through, I had a natural instinct to counterbalance what she had gone through. How I did that was hiding who I really was and where I was from growing up. I remember trying to fit in so hard at school. I wanted to be like one of them. I wanted to be a French Canadian because I grew up in Montreal. I started dressing like the rest of the girls. I started doing my hair like them, the little blonde strikes in their hair. I kept begging my mom to stop sending me rice and beans for lunch. I wanted a peanut butter and jelly sandwich like the rest of them. Growing up, because of what my mom went through, I just tried to blend in and fit in because I didn't want to be labeled an immigrant like she was. I knew how hard it was for her, and so I was just trying to protect myself. One day I received these beautiful running shoes from a church donation bag that we collected every few months for immigrants. And to my surprise, they were these beautiful running shoes that all the cool girls had at school. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is my moment. I will shine tomorrow when I go to school with these shoes on. And finally, I might make some friends with them and become friends with them. Well, I put them on, quickly realized that they were really small and way too tight. But did that stop me from going to school the next day with those shoes on? How? I don't know, but I went to school with those shoes the next day. And they hurt. My feet killed the next day. But I was trying to blend in, and I wanted to be like them. Sadly, the next day, all of my hopes and dreams of being noticed by this group of girls didn't happen. Instead, I had pain the entire day from walking in those shoes that didn't fit. I had blisters, and it was so uncomfortable. And the lesson that I learned that day was that it's not worth it. What I kept doing my entire childhood is called covering. Covering or masking is a practice of people feeling as though they can't show up to be themselves, personally or professionally. At its simplest definition, it is when people disguise who they truly are. Looking at it through a diversity and inclusion lens, masking causes people to cover up, conform to mainstream thinking, and shrink back a portion of their identity. People end up covering what they're really thinking and feeling as a way of coping, especially in the workplace. Now, think about your own teams and your own roles in SLB. How many of us come to work every day with a mask on, hiding who we really are? At SLB, we want to change that. We want to make this an inclusive workplace, and that means everybody being able to bring their authentic selves to work every day and thrive in that environment. We tried to create these inclusive cultures comprised of diverse groups of people, and the focus has been on what we could do for others. And that's really important and encouraging, but there's been a glaring omission from the conversation, and that is, how do we become conscious and embrace and even develop diversity within ourselves? The question is essential to ask, because if we don't accept all of ourselves, then our ability to truly embrace others is going to be compromised. This is diversity, inclusion, and belonging from the inside out. So let's use my story as an illustration. When I realized that I cared way too much about what others thought of me and my mom, I acted like I wanted to fit in so badly, but I wasn't happy about it. I knew it wasn't healthy, and I really didn't like this about myself. The hard truth is that when we dislike something about ourselves, chances are we will dislike that same trait when we see it in others. And this can lead to conscious and unconscious bias. If we can learn to embrace the part of ourselves that we don't like, then we can get a lot more out of this challenge and grow. So take a moment to internalize and see what are certain things that you may be doing unconsciously or consciously to exclude others or to create an unsafe work environment. Look, we can't talk about inclusion without talking about psychological safety. It's that simple. We can't. They're both important aspects of creating a positive and supportive work environment. Psychological safety refers to an environment where employees feel comfortable and confident in expressing themselves, taking risks, and asking questions without fear of being criticized, rejected, or even worse, punished. When employees feel psychologically safe, they're more likely to engage in constructive conflict, provide and receive feedback, and be more innovative and creative. And like I said before, being innovative and creative should be number one on our list of things that we want to do in this company. We're a technology-driven company, and we need innovation and creativity in order to solve world problems. And so we need to make sure that our teams feel comfortable enough and safe enough to bring up maybe some crazy ideas that could solve world problems. SLB is made up of 100,000+ people, I think, as of 2023. Imagine if we all felt safe enough to contribute ideas, think big and innovate without having to worry about our ideas getting shut down because of who we are, what we look like, what we sound like, where we come from. Imagine at what level we could take our company and thrive if we all felt safe to do so. I remember a time after I had left the field and I got an office job in Sugar Land. This was a big change for me. Going from the field to the office was not an easy task for me. It was very different. I was a few months in and I still didn't feel super comfortable in the office with a lot of new people in business suits. And, I was still kind of getting used to the business reviews, the ROFOs, and all of those, big corporate meetings, because I was usually the only woman and by far the youngest. I was sitting in one of the meetings because I remember vividly, like as if it was yesterday. And we were in a big conference room, beautiful conference room in Sugar Land. There was a table. There was maybe like 15 of us. And we were going on about different topics. And I had so many ideas that I wanted to contribute, but I was way too scared and felt intimidated to say anything. And so I just kept quiet, let them talk. I realized that I was sitting at the table, something that I wanted to do for so long, have a female represent at the table. I was so proud of myself. But what was the point of having a seat at the table if I didn't have a voice? I realized that maybe the table was built for people who didn't look like me, or who were my age, or who spoke like me, who thought like me. Taking a seat at the table is really important because it represents equal representation and different voices in decision making. When people from diverse backgrounds and perspectives are included in these conversations and discussions, then there's better decision-making process. They bring a range of ideas and experiences that can lead to better outcomes overall. In my opinion, we need to build a bigger and better table and bring more seats, bring more people to the conversation to truly see change and make an impact. Again, I had a seat, but I had no voice. I wasn't included. I didn't feel safe to voice my ideas. Inclusive leadership was crucial for what came after. I walked out of the meeting and my boss came up to me and said, Maciel, you're quiet in the meeting and that's not like you. He had gotten to know another side of me where I was safe, where it was a smaller team, where it was maybe a one-on-one with him. And he knew that I contributed a lot when I felt safe. And he said, you're not going to do us any good if you don't share your thoughts and ideas. We want to hear your perspective, especially you just came out of the field. You might know a lot more than maybe some of us that have left after many years. Give us your perspective, even if it's different. I was vulnerable and I told him how I felt. I was afraid to be judged and to be questioned about why I was given a seat at the table in the first place. I was scared to lose that. I didn't feel like I was experienced enough or smart enough to be there. It is because of leaders like him that I was given several opportunities that people who look or sound like me maybe wouldn't have gotten in the past. The company has changed and keeps evolving more and more, and I've never felt so confident that we are headed in the right direction on inclusivity in the workplace. For example, in 2021, I waited 7 months to let my team know that I was pregnant. Yep, 7 months. How? We were working from home at that point. I could hide. Trust me, I did it. But why? Why did I do that? Well, I was worried that I would be looked at differently and that they thought that I wouldn't be able to give my 110% after I became a mom, because I had heard that in not only in our company, but in different companies, that you get judged once you become a mom. They maybe would think that my job wasn't going to be number one anymore and that I would take a back seat and relax and that I wasn't driven in my career anymore. And I didn't want that. I didn't want them to think that. However, to my surprise, my 100% male team's reaction was completely different when I let them know. They were beyond excited for me. And this really helped me feel like I belonged, even though I was changing and evolving as a woman. I was growing a child, but my team made me feel so included and safe that I was going to be okay. I'll give you another example of inclusive leadership that I saw in SLB. And this was a month after. I was 8 months pregnant at that point, and I had already booked a customer and management team engagement at the King Ranch. Now, talk about a place where a pregnant woman does not belong, right? Hunting, fishing, and shooting. I don't think I was able to probably do any of those things. And I remember being a little bummed. It was, it's not any day that I get to go to the King Ranch. It was many years of hoping I would go. And I was bummed and I bummed and I was decided that maybe I wouldn't go. I didn't want to hold them back. The pregnant lady in the back, ruining everybody's fun. But when I told them that I wasn't going to go, my customers and my team made it very clear to me that no, you have to come, Maciel, and that they would make it feel comfortable for me and that not to worry, that I would feel safe. Trust me when I say that what they did for me that weekend to make sure I felt included in a team of 20 men and myself, the only female at the King Ranch, is something that I will never forget and always be grateful for. When employees feel seen and when they feel this sense of belonging and support from their direct team, managers, colleagues, they will do great work and the business will thrive as a result. I was ready to come back to work, so excited to rejoin this team because of little things like that. Think about your current team now. Are you being an inclusive leader? Can you think of some scenarios of maybe where you could have noticed someone not speaking up at a meeting, or someone saying, hey, I'm not going to go to this golf tournament or to this happy hour, and just saying, okay, cool, don't come, instead of, hey, how can we make this better for you? Is it the timing? Do you have kids to pick up? Is it, like, there's a lot of ways that we can become inclusive leaders. Sometimes we do things unconsciously that make our team feel excluded and disconnected. It can be little small things that we do weekly. Let me give you an example. I've heard from several women mention that the networking and happy hours or get-togethers usually happen after work on a Thursday or Friday. This is usually harder for them to attend because they don't have the luxury of having a full-time nanny or a babysitter come last minute, or they have a lot of things that they have to do, whether it's take their kids to different extracurricular activities, cook, get ready for the next day, laundry. I mean, there's tons of things that we need to do after work. And so sometimes picking those hours, you're kind of excluding certain people. It's just something to think about. How about adding extra work or passing it on to those team members who don't have kids? Because, they must have more time than us, right? That's something that I've heard from people who don't have kids. But they feel like maybe a lot of the workload after hours gets put on them because we assume that from them. Inclusion is about keeping everyone in mind and making sure that we consider everyone's situation differently and everyone's needs. Inclusive leaders demonstrate a deep understanding of the benefits of diversity and are proactive in creating an environment where diverse perspectives and ideas are welcomed and encouraged. They actively seek out and listen to the voices of underrepresented groups and work to eliminate those barriers that prevent individuals from reaching their full potential. I am so thankful for the inclusive leaders that I've had on my own SLB journey, and I wouldn't be here today speaking with you if it wasn't for them. So my final thoughts on closing today's talk is ensuring that there is inclusion, belonging, and equity for all of us. It doesn't take much. It all starts with each one of us and also inside of us. So today, I leave you with this one question. What are you going to do to ensure that you're creating the environment of belonging and safety amongst your teams and in the circles that you run in? Because I guarantee you, when you do create that sense of belonging and safety, it will allow for a lot of people to thrive and be the best version of themselves at work. And I guarantee you that if you really want your people to thrive, create that sense of belonging and safety, and then sit back, relax, and watch people soar and achieve amazing results. Thank you.